Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Without question, the biggest paranormal story of the decade has been the controversial Alien Autopsy film brought forward by promoter Ray Santilli. In a series of reports, Sightings has made no secret of the fact that we are highly skeptical about that film, and two recent interviews with trained military photographers only confirm our suspicions. The film is a fake. Early in 1995, a small London video distribution company made a startling announcement to the international UFO community. Film footage of an alien being had been discovered, a creature allegedly recovered from Roswell, New Mexico, after the crash of a flying saucer. At first, ufologists were ecstatic. This finally was the proof they'd been looking for. But as soon as most Roswell researchers, like Kent Jeffrey, saw the footage, they insisted that the autopsy film was a hoax.
Big-time hoaxes do big-time damage, and this is certainly a big-time hoax. It's probably the biggest con job in the history of ufology.
Jeffrey has spearheaded efforts to declassify Roswell documents and was among the first to see the film.
The first showing to the members of the UFO community and to the press was in London on May 5th. It was an invitation-only group, and like a lot of people, after just a short glance, I knew in my heart right then and there that this was definitely a hoax. I mean, if Roswell really happened as reported by the witnesses, and there are a few witnesses who claim to have seen the bodies or talked to people who have, this looked nothing like that. It looked like a modified human corpse to me.
At the center of the controversy is Ray Santilli, who claims that he received the autopsy film from the military camera operator who shot it. But Santilli has come under attack of late for making promises he just doesn't seem to be able to keep, including his claim that then-President Harry Truman would be clearly visible on the film.
Santilli told crop researcher Colin Andrews that that was the thing that convinced him, Santilli, that the film was authentic when he saw President Truman. According to Santilli, Truman's face was visible so clearly that when he spoke, if you were a lip reader, you'd be able to understand his words.
But so far, no one, even remotely resembling President Truman, has been seen on the film.
Does it bother you that people are calling you a con man?
In this rare interview, Sightings correspondent Carla Wohl confronted Santilli and got a convoluted denial.
You said that President Truman could be seen in the film viewing the autopsy.
Now, I don't know, you know, if the event...
Have you seen him on the film?
No, but if the event occurred, as we believe it did, then, you know, quite a few people have kept quiet. But it is a discrepancy.
Film technicians, special effects artists, and forensic scientists have all analyzed the footage. But perhaps the best experts are the men who have first-hand knowledge about military photography. They are an elite fraternity, the relative handful of camera operators who document every important move the military makes. World War II veteran Joe Longo is president of the International Combat Camera Association. Kent Jeffrey asked Longo to evaluate the autopsy film.
What the cameraman was sent there for, he certainly is not accomplishing his mission. See that shot that we just saw? That's the widest shot I've seen. They never really back off and show the four walls or show you what the enclosure is like where this is taking place.
My understanding was that all medical procedures were shot in color. Even though color film was scarce in those days, something as important as the autopsy of an alien being certainly would have been a high priority.
Now, the thought of a cameraman covering something as important as an alien autopsy with a handheld 16mm camera with 3 lenses and a thing that you wind up, that's inconceivable. But I couldn't understand why this man went ahead and filmed this thing almost like home movies, and very bad home movies. I've been there. I've covered operations, major operations, and autopsies, and I know what's entailed. Technique was very bad.
In July 1995, Santilli released a statement titled The Cameraman's Story. It was touted as the true story of how the anonymous photographer had come into possession of so much valuable and classified footage.
That's an incredible story itself. He shot hundreds of canisters of film during the event itself. Each of the canisters or reels of film were 3 minutes in duration, and he separated during the filming reels that he felt were problem reels. He'd sent the remainder straight on to Washington, and he spent more time on the 22 reels of film which he'd processed.
Incredible and impossible, says retired Lieutenant Colonel Dan McGovern, who has shot tens of thousands of feet of top-secret film, some of which remains classified. His pictures of Hiroshima are world famous, and in the late 1940s, McGovern was assigned to 2 top-secret UFO projects in New Mexico.
If this particular cameraman said that he did his own processing, that's a bullcrap. Because cameraman shoots his film and turns it into the lab for processing. When it comes out of the lab, all of the frames that were pulled out and attached to the leader has to be accounted for. That goes with the film to the top secret control officer. That's how you keep a secret. Not even that particular half a frame would get out of that particular lab.
Once he'd got to the stage where he felt he could send them on, he called Washington and asked them to pick up the film, collect the film, and he tried on numerous occasions, but they just failed to do so.
And then he said, oh my God, they never called for the film. Like, hello, I got 21, would you come inside? You would just send somebody over to pick it up? Okay, yeah, I'll leave the key under the mat. No, I don't understand it. This is 21 rolls of important film.
And while this film is virtually dirt and scratch-free, Longo says the film should show signs of damage and deterioration after so many years.
If the film was 40 years old, 40-some-odd years old, black and white, even under ideal conditions, the film would be pretty badly beat up. It would have deteriorated. You'd see scratches, grain, a lot of splice marks, because the film being brittle, you run it through any kind of a projector or a viewer, you're going to break it.
Many of these concerns could be answered if the autopsy cameraman would come forward. So far, he has not.
This guy's in his mid-80s. He's not interested in the subject. That's the first point. Secondly, he's got his family to consider, and his family are his only consideration. They're the only thing that he worries about.
One of the reasons that Santilli has given for the cameraman wanting to remain anonymous is that he's afraid of getting in trouble because of breaking a security violation. Well, that makes no sense, because if this story were true, the military would certainly know who that cameraman was, and he would be in big trouble. His best protection would be to go public.
And Santilli has failed to make good on his promise to provide frames of the original film for authentication.
Kodak has been standing by since July 1995, waiting for the film. If they were given only 1 or 2 frames, they could adequately analyze this film and determine one way or another whether it is genuine 1945 film. They would be very foolish not to have it authenticated, because then the value of the film would increase logarithmically. Instead of being worth a few $100,000 or whatever they've derived from this, it would be worth millions.
And Longo says there are fewer than 25 men alive today with the security clearance necessary to have filmed an alien autopsy.
We've got most of the fellows in our unit, our Combat Camera Association. I put the word out. Does anybody have any idea who this cameraman could be? And nobody's come up with it.
If someone came up with what they thought was a long-lost Van Gogh painting and announced that they weren't going to reveal where they got it, what the source of it was, and also announced that they were not going to allow any art experts to examine the painting, do chemical tests on it, whatever else would be necessary to authenticate it, yet said they were going to be selling prints of it, they'd be laughed right out of the field. They wouldn't get to first base. Nobody would take them seriously. And that's what should have happened here.
The so-called Alien Autopsy film is allegedly co-owned by several different companies around the world who receive money whenever the footage is aired on television. But assuming the footage is real, as they claim, the autopsy film is U.S. government film, and therefore, according to law, cannot be owned. Declassified government film may be broadcast anytime, anywhere, for free. And so we are taking the so-called owners at their word. We have paid no one for the use of the autopsy footage in this broadcast.